What's going on, Big Ten fans? It's your man Stephen Bardo coming at you. Might look a little bit darker. Took a little trip last week. Enjoyed myself. I was down down the way during last Monday's show. I actually was pulling the strings from out of the country, so that was interesting. But it worked. Hope you guys are doing well. Hope you had a great weekend. Summer is wrapping up oh so quickly. Always too quick for me. But we got a good show today. Got a good one for you. Jason Kemp, assistant coach at Minnesota. Very entertaining interview with him. And I think you guys will enjoy his perspective and his take on certain things. Also, some of the progress about the players and his thoughts on the expansion of the Big Ten. Got another Flyin Illini story coming to you. We got the next 5 in the top 50. I think we skipped last week, so we got to get caught up. And so we'll get the next 5 in, and then I'll take your questions. All right. So buckle in, y'all. All that and more coming right here on Bardo's Breakdown. All right, where are we here? What's going on, y'all? It's your man, Stephen Bardo, coming back at you with another edition, a special edition of Bardo's Breakdown. You guys know I like to go and get the best minds in the Big Ten Conference to come and bring it to you straight up. And one of the guys I'm really looking forward to talking with today is Minnesota assistant coach Jason Kemp. Coach, thanks for joining us today, man.
Stephen, it's a pleasure to be here as a longtime Big Ten fan. It's good to be on here with you live and direct.
No, I appreciate it, man. I know you guys are busy, and you've got an interesting background, Coach, that I want to touch on before we get to your current roster. You've got a really good history in terms of your coaching at different stops.
Sure.
One of the coaches that you work with, who is one of my favorites, is Tim Miles.
Yeah.
I think you guys are at North Dakota State together. Is that accurate?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Can you break down a little bit of your different stops and your background in terms of coaching before you got back to Minnesota?
Yeah, well, I kind of took the road less traveled. I started out, played Division III at the University of Wisconsin lacrosse. I knew I wanted to coach Division I basketball. I didn't know how to get there. I didn't have any contacts, didn't have any ties. So long story short, I was given the opportunity to be a graduate assistant at North Dakota State University. They were transitioning from Division II to Division I. The head coach just so happened to be Tim Miles. His assistant, Saul Phillips, former assistant at Wisconsin, was there at the time as well. And so I joined them in the first year of the transition, and we took 5 Division II players, Division II recruits, with the intentions that they would have 1 year to qualify for the NCAA tournament. 2 years later, we had beat Wisconsin and we had beat Marquette. Coach Miles was off to Colorado State. Saul Phillips took over, and 2 years later, we were in the NCAA tournament playing Kansas, and that kind of catapulted me to where I am today, which I'm humbled and honored that I got to experience that at North Dakota State. We had a great cast of characters there. Craig Bohl, who ended up at Wyoming. Chris Kleiman was our football coach. He ended up at Kansas State. And Gene Taylor, the AD at Kansas State. So I learned a lot from my experience there, and especially learned a lot from Coach Miles early on about big dreamers. Dreaming big dreams can accomplish anything, because he's from small town South Dakota, was able to ascend to the Big Ten, and I used that kind of as a roadmap to where I was going. Ended up coaching at 2 schools in the MAC. Went to William and Mary out east to get a little bit different experience, and came full circle back with my good friend Ben Johnson here at Minnesota. So excited to be a Gopher and continuing on this path of getting this program pointed in the right direction.
Coach Kemp, can you share with our viewers how important your background is at like some of these Summit League, MAC, CAA schools? I mean, there's terrific coaching and
Yeah.
terrific basketball at these levels. Can you kind of share some of that with our Big Ten fans?
Well, when I was in the Summit League at North Dakota State, we had 3 players get Player of the Year in the league. Ben Woodside probably being the most notable, was a phenomenal point guard. I tell him all the time, because I still talk to him a lot, if you lived in the transfer portal era, you would have got a lot of money. And he said, don't tell me how much. Don't tell me how much. So, we had some good players, and we did some phenomenal things. But in the league at the time, you had Ron Hunter at IUPUI. Mm-hmm. His point guard was George Hill. You had Greg Campy at Oakland, who just beat Kentucky in the tournament this past year. You had Scott Sutton and the Sutton brothers at Oral Roberts. So you had a number of coaches that were highly talented coaches in the league at the time. And it was a challenge. It was a challenge, but we were able to find our way through that transition and become a relevant team in that league for sure.
No, your vast experience, man. When I was, doing a little research prior to this interview, I was very impressed, because those stops are full of guys that know how to coach, players that know how to play, competitiveness, usually older leagues. So the guys are more mature, and more. And the MAC, I think the MAC and the Valley are comparable in terms of physicality with the Big Ten. That's why a lot of times those players that come from those conferences that come to the Big Ten really have success, because they understand how to play, and they're grown men. They know where the weight room is. So
it certainly helped me. I worked for Todd Kowalczyk at Toledo, and then Saul Phillips again at Ohio University. But a lot of people don't know Todd was with Tom Crean at Marquette, so he knew the importance of having talented players at whatever level you're at. We won a conference championship my year with Coach Kowalczyk at Toledo, and then I had 2 second-place finishes up in my time at Ohio. So got to see how competitive that league is. I look at the MAC as a baby Big Ten. The 4 men are physical and aggressive and tough. They're not guards. The bigs are all 6'10 plus, and the guards are fast and quick and athletic and playmakers. And so it's really, really important to have the right players in place to compete, just like it is here in this league.
So, Coach, you mentioned your time with Todd Kowalczyk at Toledo, and you guys, one of your transfers, this young man seems a little bit under the radar, Tyler Cochran. Can you talk about him? And like his numbers and his stats look really good. Can you talk about him a little bit and what he'll bring to your program?
Yeah, Tyler is well, first of all, Coach Kowalczyk is far and away one of the best offensive minds in college basketball. When I was playing for him, I always felt like if we had the ball tied, down 1, last possession, we were going to win. We were going to win. And so I knew with Tyler going back in the portal, he was initially committed to Oregon State, that he would be a guy that would thrive in our offensive system. A lot of the things that we do here at Minnesota, Coach Kowalczyk does at Toledo. And so I knew he would have a great understanding of how to play. But beyond that, he's a very instinctive player, and he's got a terrific build in regards to his strength and physicality. We want to try to get him in a little better shape. Obviously, he had that whole summer off trying to figure out where he was going. But the physicality and toughness is there. And the IQ, which is what we've seen in practices to this point, is off the charts.
You guys have done a fantastic job of acquiring point guards out of the portal. What do you think the key is to that? You guys got Elijah Hawkins last year, who was a revelation. One of the assist leaders in the country.
Yeah.
What is it? What is it about your approach as a coaching staff that has been so attractive to these high-level point guards?
Yeah, I would take it back to the beginning. First of all, I'll tell you that Coach Johnson, as you know, was a point guard, a ball handler here at Minnesota. So when he looks at our point guards, he sees himself. And so that it's really easy for me to put talented players in front of him and for him to critique him as to if they're right for him or not. Because I feel like he knows, because he played that position beyond anybody, how he wants it to look. So you go back to Peyton Willis. We brought Peyton Willis back.
That's right.
When he was here initially, he played more off the ball. Coach Johnson put him at the point. He did some phenomenal things in all statistical categories. We had Luke Lowy here, who was a secondary ball handler for us from William and Mary that I coached, who was also a terrific playmaker. And then, fast forward to Elijah Hawkins and Talon Cooper, who we had the last 2 years.
Talon
just signed an Exhibit 10 deal with the Orlando Magic. And obviously Elijah was second in the nation in assists. So I think it's a combination of Coach Johnson just knowing what he wants and me slowly figuring out, and all of our staff figuring out who to bring to him. And then him being able to implement strategies that really work for our players.
Oh, that's great. And thank you for really giving the background with Talon Cooper. I've forgotten about Talon and Peyton Willis, and that's great. That's great background. So thank you for sharing that. I want you to touch on each of these other transfers that you guys have and kind of what they're going to bring to your program and what your expectations are.
Yeah, I would start with Frank Mitchell. Frank is a transfer from Canisius. He was the 4th leading rebounder in the country. He reminds me a lot of some of the guys that Clem Haskins had here, the John Thomases, the Randy Carters, that physicality, that brute strength to move bodies, to go get rebounds outside of your area, and then to put people in the low post and really be physical and find good shots and get to the free throw line. So he's going to help us tremendously. We're excited about him. We have a threat that we can throw the ball to down there, which I think is a major advantage in this league. And so we'll definitely benefit from Frank being here. He's originally from Toronto, terrific kid. And we're excited about him. We got a number of other guys. It's kind of a new look Gophers for this year. Trey Edmonds is a transfer from UTSA. He's going to provide a lot more depth at that forward and center spot. Physically gifted, physically strong, and athletic player that can get on and off ball screens and play above the rim. So we're really, really excited about him. We actually played UTSA this year, and he had 12 points. And if you ask him, he would say he got some home cooking because he fouled out that game. But I'm not letting him get away with that. We're going to teach him how to play defense the right way.
Okay.
Femi Odekale is a kid who's been around for quite a while. He actually had roots in Minnesota, spent some time in St. Cloud, Minnesota, but a native of Brooklyn, New York. Femi played for Shaheen Holloway at Seton Hall, so toughness is a factor there. Spent last year at New Mexico State with Jason Hooten, another very, very good coach. And so now he's came here and is really committed throughout the course of his career to being a slasher, but also more importantly, he wants to take on the challenge of guarding the best player on the floor. And I think that's something we haven't had since Luke Lowy was here, a guy that can really wipe out the other team's best player. That's something that really is an advantage in our conference. So there's a number of other guys. Brennan Rigsby. Brennan is from Oregon. He's an elite high-level shooter. Obviously, Oregon was a phenomenal team this year, losing to Creighton in the NCAA tournament. But Brennan's a high-level shooter, was a highly recruited athlete out of junior college, originally from Colorado, and so we're super excited about him. And then obviously we talked about Tyler, and then Lukai Patterson.
Yep.
Lukai Patterson from Charlotte was an all-conference player in the AAC this year, 15 points a game, elite one-on-one player that can break down the defense. Again, when we had Peyton Willis here, we were able to give him the ball, set him a ball screen late in the shot clock, or isolate him. If you remember back to us playing at Mississippi State that last year, and then playing against Princeton in the Asheville tournament, Peyton won those games. We didn't have to do anything. We just gave him the ball and let him go to work. Lukai brings a lot of that. He's a homegrown prospect. He's from Minneapolis, right here on the north side, and is just a terrific, terrific kid. So we're very excited about Lukai too. So a lot of new faces. We're looking forward to seeing how this group grows throughout the year. I think we've got firepower, we've got shooting, and we're old. We're one of the more older teams in the country. So I think these guys are going to be ready. They've seen it all. They've done it all. So looking forward to getting them out there and competing.
Coach, you guys have done a fantastic job of flipping the roster, and you're talking about the age of your team now. What has been the key to Minneapolis being so attractive? I know that Lukai is a Minneapolis native. There may be one or two others that have some experience in the Minneapolis area, but what is it about your program that has been so attractive to attract these really good players?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. This is a good basketball state, specifically in the metro area, Minneapolis and St. Paul and the suburbs. If you look back to Coach Haskins' teams, I think what you would see is a roster that was 50% Minnesota and 50% other places. And I think Minnesota will always be the bedrock of the successful teams that play here. We knew coming in that we couldn't take everybody in the metro area, but we also knew there was good enough talent to build a sustainable winner in this area alone. So Coach Johnson went to work right away, rekindling a lot of those relationships. And it's paid big dividends. Like we've got some guys that have came here from Minnesota and done some nice things. And we're going to continue to do that. Okay.
And then let's transition and talk about your returners, because you've got a solid core here in terms of guys that you're bringing back. Mike Mitchell Jr., Dawson Garcia, Caden Betts, who I want you to talk about first because he's a guy I think has a tremendous amount of upside, and obviously Parker Fox, the old man in the crew. But let's start with Caden Betts first. What are your expectations of this young man?
This is Caden's year, and I say it all the time. Some players are light switch players where it just happens right away and they flip the light switch on and they figure it out. And others, it's a steady, gradual increase to what they're going to become. Caden's always had the skill set to be a player at this level. He's physically gifted. He's got some God-given size and length. And he's a good athlete. And so it's just been a process of getting him adjusted and acclimated to what's going on at this level. But I think he's ready. I think he's gotten a lot stronger. He's added about 15 to 20 pounds since he's been here. And I think what people don't realize is Caden is extremely young for his age. You know, he came in and showed up on campus. He had just turned 18, which is very similar to Cam Christie. Cam Christie's 18 right now. So I think Coach Johnson likes, even in the era of the transfer portal, he always likes to have one or two guys that he can look at that we can shape and mold. And I really, truly believe now is Caden's time.
You know, Coach, Caden, every time I'm calling your games, I come to shoot around or something, smiling. Yeah. Always, his teammates love him. Can you explain the kind of infectious personality this young man has?
Yeah, he's got a terrific personality. And we actually, to be honest, think that his relationship, and he's a great relationship guy. He's got a great relationship and fun to be around his teammates. His relationship with Cam Christie made it really hard for Cam to make the decision to leave. Like, they're very close.
Okay.
And so Caden has that presence about him. He's an old soul. His father's raised him right. He loves 90s era hip hop. That's his thing. So
Are you serious?
Oh yeah. So you can talk to him about it when he comes up here, but we relate really well to him, our coaching staff, just because it's almost like talking to one of us. And so he's an exciting guy. He works really, really hard at trying to become a better player. And so now is the time I think that he's really going to get a chance to shine.
You know, Dawson Garcia has been one of the best players in the league the last 2 seasons. Is there another step for him, Coach? Can he get to a higher level and possibly be Big Ten MVP?
Dawson Garcia will forever be, and I've got a lot of players that I've coached that I love, but he will be forever one of my favorites, if not my favorite, just from the simple fact that he went other places, he had success. He came home, he committed to building a winner right under the confines of his hometown. And there's something to be said for that in the era of the transfer portal, because I'll be perfectly honest, it would have been very easy for Dawson Garcia to go do something else after these last 2 years. And he's so committed to seeing Minnesota win. Like, that's the reason why we believe this is going to work. Long term, is because of people that have laid the foundation like Dawson. I do believe he should be a candidate for Player of the Year in the Big Ten. I think he's the leading returning scorer this year.
Yep.
He is our everything in regards to how our offense works, how we move. He's an unselfish player. He's been a leader for us on and off the court. He's a great steward for the community and does things in the community. He's really invested himself in what goes on in Minneapolis and St. Paul, and I can't say enough about him. But from a basketball perspective, If he's not a top 25 talent in the country right now, I don't know who is. I don't know who is. He's a very talented player.
There's no doubt about that. And we've seen it the last couple seasons, as you said. Mike Mitchell Jr. started off like gangbusters, kind of hit the Big Ten and had a little slump there, but I think he started to put it back together towards the end of the year. What's his status and where can he improve in his game this upcoming season?
Yeah, well, we've actually toyed around, obviously, with Elijah Hawkins here last year. Elijah was a point guard. Like, that was his position, and that was what he played. It would have been hard to move him off the ball. And with him generating offense the way he did, it was hard to take him out of the game. And so Mike played predominantly off the ball. If you look back at his output at Pepperdine, he averaged over 5 assists a game. And he can handle the ball. He can make good decisions and good reads. And he's a high-level shooter. And so we've toyed with playing around with putting him at the point guard here a little bit this summer, and he's had good results. If I had to guess, obviously we don't stat everything, but if I had to guess, his assist to turnover right now is probably one of the best when we've played live in practice. And so I see him taking a step forward as more of a playmaker as opposed to just a play finisher. And so we're excited about that, having that diversity with Mike and being able to put him at different spots on the court.
And then we talk about the elder statesman. I think Parker might be the oldest player in the Big Ten, but I tell you what, he plays like a kid that's let out for recess.
Yeah.
I mean, he plays with his hair on fire.
Yeah.
He's a fan favorite.
Yeah.
He's a smart young man because I've gotten a chance to talk to him a few times.
Yeah.
What can we expect from Parker this season?
Yeah. I think with Parker, knock on wood, being 2 years out from his last injury, I think a lot of the athleticism that he lost in that time is going to return. Like, I can see it already. And if you haven't seen highlights from him when he was at Northern State University, you got to go back and watch him. Like, he is a dynamic, crazy athlete. And 2 years out from that injury, I think of a lot of that stuff's back. You're going to see an even more electric player. I think the thing that he brings the most for our offense is just the ability to facilitate. He's almost like a mini Jokic, where he can play and get us to multiple actions in a possession, which, that's extremely hard to guard. If you're setting a bunch of screens in a possession, and he's really, really good at getting us to the next action. So I think you're going to see some phenomenal things out of Parker. He, too, deserves a lot of credit for coming here. He's from Matamida, Minnesota, which is on the east side of St. Paul, and he's come here and really put his stamp on the program and shown that he's willing to do the hard work so that we can build a sustainable winner down the road for sure.
And as we wrap up, I want you to kind of explain to us: are there freshmen that are coming in that you think will really have an impact, or are they more, really good players that just need a little bit more time, like the majority of freshmen that come into this conference?
Well, we've got 2 freshmen that came in this year. Grayson Grove being the first one, was an all-state player from Alexandria, Minnesota. Same high school as Trayton Thompson, who used to play here. But he is about 6'9", 6'10", very good athlete, runner. He's shown flashes of Tyler Wall, if that is a name that would ring out.
Yeah.
But really, really active and athletic player that can impact the game in ways other than just scoring. He crashes the glass like a madman. It looks like he's jumping off a cliff sometimes. But he's going to add value right away just because he's willing to do the things that allow you to win the game. And then the guy that I really think is going to make an impact is Isaac Asma. He's from Cherry, Minnesota, top 100 recruit, plays mostly on the ball as a point guard, but he's as solid as they come, and well beyond his years in regards to his maturity on the court and knowing what to do, knowing what to say in huddles. I think he's really, you could look at him as a future player that could do some great things here.
And Coach, thank you for that. I appreciate you giving us a glimpse of the incoming freshmen. What has been your thoughts with the expansion of the Big Ten with Oregon, Washington, UCLA, and USC coming into the fold? What's kind of the thing that's been the discussion point around that that whole topic?
I mean, this is exciting. I was thinking back, and I'm going. I was fortunate to be an assistant coach when I was 25 years old, and so I felt like I've seen a lot until they came into the league, and I was like, I've never been in Poly Pavilion. I've never really played at Washington, and so I think it's going to be fun. I think it's going to make the league competitive. To me, you could look at. I'm biased because I grew up in Big Ten country, but this is the premier basketball league in the country, in regards to coaching and in regards to talent. And adding those 4 teams just it puts a stamp on it for me. So it's going to be exciting to compete against those teams. I'm excited to welcome some of those warm weather teams to Minneapolis in the middle of January. But it's going to be fun having them in the league for sure.
Well, Coach, I so appreciate your time, man. This was wonderful. Thank you for giving us a glimpse into the Gopher program, and we really appreciate it.
If you ever want me to tell you how much the Flyin Illini would have got in the portal, I'll let you know. Hey,
tell us now. I mean,
it would have been a lot. It would have been a lot. Me and Dave Thorson talk about it all the time. So
okay, well, yeah, you know what? I'll call you. We can maybe go have a beer and chop it up so I can drown my sorrows.
Yeah, for sure. All right.
That's Minnesota assistant coach Jason Kemp. Thank you so much for joining us today, my man.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you having me on.
All right. Well, you guys saw how much fun that was, and why I love doing these assistant coaching interviews, because we're looking at the future coaches in this league. And so Jason Kemp, you see, he's a gregarious, easy to conversate. He gave some great information on the Minnesota program. So thank you very much to Minnesota assistant coach Jason Kemp for that. All right, let's keep it moving. My man, my mellow. We got some Flyin Illini stories here. All right. So let me give you a little bit of background. Between our sophomore and junior years, we're working out in the summer. And then there's this guy that comes over, and he's a guard, a little diminutive. And, he's got his left arm is smaller than his right arm. And you don't really notice it unless you're up close to him or whatnot. And so Philip Bowman starts working out with us, and Coach Collins says, he's going to be with us moving forward. So, there's always some skepticism, and, he's coming from Parkland Junior College, where I didn't know at the time, but PJ Bowman was an All-American and could shoot it from the parking lot, could shoot in a phone booth, right? So we started working out, and, everybody's just kind of, all right, come on, whatever. We start hooping. He gets a shot. He gets a pass. Wow. We're over at Impey, over the recreation center in the summer, working out, just hooping, playing 5-on-5. Kendall's guarding him. Whop, hits another jumper. It's like, bro, you going to guard this dude, man? So then, we're still playing. PJ gets the ball, up fakes. Kendall goes flying. He goes to the hole and hits a runner. And I'm looking at this dude like, this guy looks kind of familiar. I had forgotten PJ Bowman was on the team when we played Champaign Centennial in the Carbondale High School, Carbondale Holiday Tournament. And so I remember his face. I'm real good with faces. I'm not great with names, but I knew I was like, man, this guy looks familiar. So after we finished playing, PJ needs a place to stay. And so he and I get to talking, and he comes over to the spot, man. And, I had a 2-bedroom. And it was really basically a hallway with 2 rooms, and it was college. But anyway, he comes over, and it's like, all right, well, let's get to know each other. And so, man, the first time that we really sat down, we stayed up all night talking. And Dr. Philip Bowman was a doctor before he got the credentials, because he's got this very cerebral mind of his that developed through the Bowman family. Both his parents PhDs. His brother is the dean of the school. I don't want to mess this up, but he's a dean at the University of Michigan. His sister's a badass as well, Jamila. So they're very successful and very successful family. And so me and PJ stayed up all night, Had a great time talking. It was like, oh, cool, we can be roommates. And, I think that he could have been utilized a little bit better the Final Four season. I remember coaches trying to really force Andy Kaufman in the lineup when it probably could have been PJ Bowman, because he would have really opened the floor for us even more with his ability to shoot the basketball. And he wasn't a bad defender. He was a pretty good passer. He just had spot minutes and spot duty. But Philip would get his practice on the team with us because I was a emotional roller coaster. Kendall was trying to find himself, so he was a little up and down. Nick and Irvin were coming off Prop 48, and they were kind of trying to find themselves. Kenny Battle was crazy anyway. Lowell was about the most sane one, but he had his moments. So PJ would sit there, and he would recognize guys under stress. And he would go and say a few words or put his hand on your shoulder, and you would always feel better. And in college, you're so intense, you don't really notice it. But all of a sudden, it's like, this dude is he using us as his like lab rats? And that's exactly what it was, because he knew that he wanted to go into psychiatry. And what better petri dish than a Final Four team that had been ranked number one throughout this in different parts of the season that he had direct access to. And he had direct access to when Lou Henson, Jimmy Collins, Dick Nagy, or Mark Coombs would say something to us, and our facial expression would change, and we'd be hot up under the collar or something, and he'd come by and give an encouraging word. So I should be getting some of the money that PJ Bowman is getting, Dr. Bowman is getting now in Los Angeles with his highly successful practice, because I was his first guinea pig. I was his first lab rat. And I'm still crazy, but I was certifiable back then. And he really kept me off the ledge a couple times, especially from choking my head coach. But love you for that, PJ Bowman. And great teammate, great roommate, great person. And it's fun to see him and his wife, Joanna, and their two children, and how it all comes full circle. He was in town for Ryan Baker's 55th birthday party a couple weeks ago. And so to see him mature and be a husband, be a father, Kendall, same thing, Ryan, same thing. It's just really fun to see it come full circle. And that's a friendship that was developed 30-something years ago. So that's your Flyin Illini story for the day. I hope you enjoyed it. All right, let's keep it moving forward. All right, we got our top 50. We skipped it last week because, again, I was traveling and I didn't want to mess it up. Let's see. Did I get there we go. That's the right one. And excuse the Bardo's breakdown logo up in the right-hand side because that's over one of the best. And, yes, I know he didn't play in the Big Ten, but we are welcoming the 4 new teams into the Big Ten. So there are some players on this list. So I know some of y'all don't like it, but it's okay. You'll get over it. First one, Jerry Lucas, one of the best players to ever play the game. NBA Olympic gold medalist, NCAA champion, MVP of the 1960 NCAA championship. Think about this, guys. Ohio State beat Cal in San Francisco. That's where the national championship game was, by 20. So Cal was basically at home playing for a national championship. It was the Cal Palace Arena, I think it was, in San Francisco. And they smashed them by 20 in a national championship game. There were 4 NBA players on that Ohio State team with Jerry Lucas. And this guy was so smart. He insisted on getting an academic scholarship to Ohio State. I didn't know that. I also didn't know that the Hall of Fame football coach at Ohio State, Woody Hayes, asked Jerry Lucas to tutor the freshman football players because he was so smart. He did such a good job of juggling his student requirements along with his athletic requirements that, he was a model student who was also an athlete. Y'all know I don't like that student athlete moniker, but Jerry Lucas, one of the best players to not only play in the Big Ten Conference, one of the best players to ever play the game. Next up, guys, y'all have heard me talk about Roy Marble in the past. Big Ten Freshman of the Year, 1985. first left eye was the all-time leading scorer, and I saw a bunch of those shots go in against me. Combination of physicality, athleticism, and just sheer dog. Roy was a dog. If Roy had 35 points and I was up 10 and he could get another bucket on you and it was 10 seconds left, he's coming at your neck. One of the most tenacious guys I ever played against. His motor was uncanny. He'd come downhill. He was nasty. He wasn't dirty, and he didn't talk stuff. Roy never really said anything to me because I was smart enough not to say nothing to him because I didn't. He was lighting me up as it was, but I never heard him talk trash, But he was a fiery dude, man. He was tough. He was mean, and he was about his team, and just a tremendous ball player. Life cut too short. Lost his battle with cancer. I remember. I felt so bad, ladies and gentlemen. I remember seeing Roy about a month or a month and a half before he passed away. And we were at the what is that? The Marriott Hotel in Coralville, right next to Iowa City. And I'm walking in the lobby and I see this black dude sitting on the couch. I kind of glanced, but I didn't think nothing of it. And I kept walking. He says, Steve, Bardo. I look. He's like, hey, man, it's Roy. I was almost in tears. I didn't recognize him. His skin was not good. His appearance had changed drastically. When I got up to hug him, when someone is dying, you can smell it. I could smell it. And it, oof. Getting Anyway, one of the best players I ever played against in the Big Ten, Roy Marble of Iowa. Next up, man, another one. That was one of the best players possibly to play the game. Kevin McHale, Minnesota Gopher, 3-time NBA champion, 7-time NBA All-Star, 3rd pick overall in the 1980 NBA draft. And of course, he was an all Big Ten performer. Kevin McHale, some of the best footwork in the post that we've ever seen. He really utilized the Jack Sigma reverse pivot better than any big that I've seen in the modern day. And if I know he had like a lot of feet problems and feet injuries that I believe he would have been even more dominant. But Kevin McHale, along with Michael Thompson, made up quite a tall tandem in their time together. I believe they played 2 seasons together at Minnesota. And the fact, one year I think they won the Big Ten championship, but the other I don't think they did. Or maybe Kevin never did. But that just goes to show how talented and how competitive the Big Ten was during that era. So Kevin McHale, one of the best bigs, one of my favorite bigs to watch play the game. Great Minnesota Gopher. This next guy is somebody who's warm and dear to my heart. One of the best guys you'll ever meet. Billy McKinney of Northwestern. His nickname was the Crazed Hummingbird due to his quickness. Is that a cool name or what? The Crazed Hummingbird. I've never heard anything close to that. All-time leading scorer in Wildcats history for 35 years until John Scherna eclipsed his record. He is the mayor of Zion, Illinois currently. Does the radio color analyst work for the Wildcats right now. Last season got his jersey retired. And so arguably the best player in Northwestern basketball history before Boo Buie came along. But one of the greats, still top 2 or 3 in Northwestern history. And guys, if you ever see him in a gym or something like that, go up and introduce yourself. You will not be disappointed. One of the classiest men and individuals you'll ever meet. Billy McKinney, Northwestern, big ups. And last but not least, one of the best shooters the game has ever seen. Reggie Miller from UCLA, 5-time NBA All-Star, 3rd-team All-American 1986. And he was fortunate enough, and we probably will never see this again. Played all 18 seasons of his NBA career with one team, the Indiana Pacers. And it goes without saying, the stuff that he did against the Knicks in the playoffs and the success he had at UCLA. and the success he's had as a broadcaster. Reggie Miller has had an outstanding life in basketball, and he rounds out our top 5 this week. 5 of the top 50 all-time Big Ten players in Big Ten conference history. All right. I think we got through all of that relatively unscathed. Let me hold on. Let me do some adjustments here. Hold up. Bear with me. Bear with me, y'all. I'm getting it together. Okay, here we go. There we go. All right. Let me see what we got on our questions here. We got a few questions here. Got a few people on. Appreciate y'all tuning in. Doug Peterson, good to see you, Doug. Thanks for tuning in. Do you think the Illini will need to score 80 plus to win games, or do they have enough defense to win 60 plus point games? Doug, I think on paper it looks like they could be a pretty good defensive team based on their length. But I don't know that I see really good defenders in this group. I think Gibbs Lawhorn will be a good defender. Obviously, Ty Rodgers is a committed defender. I don't know that Kylan Boswell is a great defender. I didn't really see that in his time in Arizona. I don't know that you can expect KJ or Will Riley coming in as freshmen to be really good on that end of the floor, especially since there's such ball dominant guards and wing players. I think Kerry Booth has the athleticism and length to be a good defender, as does Marez Johnson. But to ask Ben Humreekhouse at 6'9" to get on the perimeter and defend, that may not be a good look. Trey White, I think, can be a good defender. Can he overcome some of the habits that he picked up from last year at Louisville? We'll see. Jake Davis, I think, is more – I haven't quite seen him on the defensive end yet. We know that he can space the floor. He's got size. He's got the body to do so. So I think there's a lot of question marks on the defensive end for the Illini. So we'll have to see, because they're going to have to commit at some point to that end of the floor, as you guys know, because all the Big Ten games sometimes, man, in January and February might be due to the outside weather that we're not playing games yet on the West Coast, that cold may seep into the joints of the players and limit their offensive ability. I don't know what happens, but it comes to a grind sometimes. So we'll see, Doug, but I don't know. If I had to say today, I wouldn't expect them to be a top 25, top 30 Ken Palm defensive team. I don't see it on paper. I could be wrong, but I don't see it. No, I was out of the country last week, and I was running the board remotely, running the show remotely, and so I didn't. It's a lot to put on these shows, guys, and sometimes you forget things. So it's just I just didn't do it. So that's all. No other reason than that. F mother. I don't get why people like Purdue so much. Purdue so much. Heedy and Calvin would be the 9th guy on Illinois at best. At best, likely the 11th guy. Look at them rosters. Heedy and Calvin. Heidi and Calvin. Well, let me say this about Purdue. Will there be a more deserving candidate of preseason Big Ten Player of the Year than Braden Smith? Will there be 4 more productive post players in the league more so than Trey Kaufman-Renn? Will it be a team that has more depth than Purdue? They brought in 5 talented freshmen, plus all the guys they got coming back. And their last 2 seasons, Braden Smith, Fletcher Lawyer, TKR, Caleb First. Will Berg was a red shirt. But he's been around the program the last 2 seasons. These guys understand, what's expected of them. And Matt Painter, right now, is he not the best coach in the Big Ten? So if you've got the best coach in the Big Ten, you probably will have the preseason Big Ten Player of the Year in Braden Smith. Did Fletcher Lawyer not torch Tennessee and Alabama last season? He's only going to get stronger and better. So I think there's plenty of reasons why people are high on Purdue. The intangibles, their experience. You're going to have one of the best point guards in the country. I understand it. Deion Thomas introduced to Kenny Ballard. He still seems crazy today. Looked to cut up. Yeah, he was a clown. He's a fun guy. Kenny loves to smile and laugh and have a good time. And he ain't no more crazy than all of us. Oh, happy belated birthday to the best tribe member of all, Carol Pole Poquette. I hope you enjoyed your birthday over the weekend. Sorry I didn't get a chance to tell you happy birthday on your day, but I really hope you enjoyed yourself, Carol. And thank you so much for always supporting Bardo's Breakdown. Your support means a lot. And I hope that you enjoyed your day and your family enjoyed you as well. UCLA team I don't get. 2 returners, same number as us. And there is no way their incoming class is more better. And if someone you're going to claim that it is, we're just going to ignore last year. I would encourage you to go and look at, first of all, I'd encourage you to think about, consider getting the Blue Ribbon College Basketball Report. It's the Bible for us in the media. They do a fantastic job of going out. They have writers that go to different, some of them go to practice, but a lot of them interview the coaches. And so they give you an extensive rundown on the team. I want you to go back AVP DS and look at what UCLA has brought in. Dylan Andrews was playing as well as any guard in that league last season down the stretch. Sebastian Mack is a bulldog. Kobe Johnson is a stud coming in from USC. Tyler Bilodeau was one of the quality big men in the Pac-12 last year out of Oregon State. William Kyle is athletic vertically as Cohen Carr is from Michigan State. Now Cohen can just jet and float and fly. William Kyle does this, but he can go upstairs as high as anybody in the conference. He's going to be a problem on the offensive glass and defensively because he's so athletic and he's so active. And I'm just scratching the surface on the guys that they have. And you got Mick Cronin. Now, he's a curmudgeon. He's not the most friendly guy, but he can coach. And they're going to be one of the best defensive teams in the country. They usually are under Mick. So I'd encourage you to go back and look at their roster and think about, when you look at these guys, think about how they'll fit, right? And when you have a bunch of scores and whatnot, I know it's hard to visualize, but UCLA really doesn't have any weaknesses. And you know they're going to defend. So they're always going to be in the game. Any team that's going to defend on the level that Mick Cronin demands, they're going to be in the game. They're going to be a top 30, top 40 defensive team in the country, Ken Pom. I'd be shocked if they weren't. So they have the intangibles. Sky Clark. I know Illini fans may not like Sky Clark, but he's coming back. He's a veteran point guard. I mean, he got a lot of time last year on a losing team, but he got a lot of time. He's back home, and he's got a relationship with Mick Cronin from high school. So I think go back and look at that roster again, and just consider what could be, what the possibilities could be there. I'm glad you enjoyed it, Jimmy. That's my guy, man. Philip PJ. Here's what I didn't say about it. So Irvin Small used to listen to the party records of Rudy Ray Moore, Dolomite. Y'all remember? If you don't know Dolomite, look him up. Dolemite. Dolomite is my name, and rapping and tapping is my game. So the old party albums and whatnot, it was raunchy and all that. So Irvin Small, PJ Bowman, Irvin would give a nickname to everybody. He came up with Petey Weestraw, the devil's son-in-law. That was a character in Dolomite's albums, was Petey Weestraw. So that was our nickname for for PJ. We say Petey Weestraw, the devil's son-in-law. So we had a colorful group, man. Colorful group, but I'm glad you enjoyed it. Let's see. Curtis, Luka Garza. Look, if anybody was questioning whether he was going to be able to play at the next level, I don't know. You weren't paying attention, because if you saw him in high school at Washington, he couldn't jump over a bucket. Probably still can't. And wasn't the most graceful guy, but he worked himself into being a fast runner down the floor, a hard worker, posting up. He's extended to the NBA three now. He shoots the three like he shoots a free throw. The guy works so hard that I'd never go against him. So I'm not surprised. I am not surprised. What's up, Captain Fletcher? Good to see you, brother. Where do you think who do you think will win the Big Ten, and where do you place Illini? Who do I think will win the Big Ten? 4 teams that I think have a chance on paper: Purdue, Indiana, Illinois, and UCLA. And in the top 5, I got Rutgers. Rutgers could very well be in the mix with their talent. If they could pull it together, they might be in the mix. I think they're definitely top 5. Where do I place Illinois? I think they're in that top 5, top 6 group. I don't know how they'll finish. Too early to tell. But I definitely think they have the talent to be in that top 5, top 6 group. But so does Rutgers. So those are teams that I would not be surprised if one of those 5 or 6 in that group could win the title, Captain. Fly, Illini, fly. Duke has 2 returners too. I know their incoming class is more talented, but they can say great incoming class and be sure top 5, and we can't be top 25 is wrong in my opinion. Think we'll be top 25 at the end. I think they'll be top 25 in the beginning. Fly, Illini, fly. People they don't know anything about Kasparis. They don't know much about they know about Will Riley. So when he came into the fold, when they saw KJ, and when they saw what he did when he went back overseas in that tournament, I think that's going to raise some eyebrows, because just those 2 guys alone are projected first-round picks. That's got to have an impact on what people think in terms of preseason rankings. So I think now the Illini would be in the top 25. I'd be surprised if they weren't. M. Brod says Heidi for Perdon't is going to cook. Is he just a sophomore? Red shirt sophomore, maybe. Let's see. Let's see. Go to the roster real quick. I think it's a redshirt sophomore, but I want to make sure. Yep. Sophomore. And so guys, I mean, Purdue's going to be good, man. They're going to be really good. Thomas Dagley says, happy birthday to Carol. Well done, Thomas. Fly Illini fly. This might be a lazy comparison, but what about IO for a comp for Kasparis? Not even sure he'll be in the same ballpark in terms of impact, but I'm just saying play style wise. Well, I don't see Kasparis having the fifth gear that IO could get to. IO was so fast. I don't see Kasparis having that. I think he's sneaky quick and fast. I think he kind of surprises people with when they try to crowd him, how he can get lower and he's strong in his core, that if KJ gets his shoulder on you, it's tough to get back around him. I think Kasparis may be a better shooter than Io when he first came in, more consistent outside shooter. And I think KJ just has much more experience and much more savvy because he's been playing against grown men for the last few years. And so I'm not crazy about that comparison. I almost think, I don't know why Tyrese Halliburton keeps popping up in my head. Totally different in terms of body but that's not a good comparison. I got to think about this one. I don't know why it's so hard, but he's such a unique player with a great skill set. Doug, my birthday is the 29th, same as Michael Jackson, except without the cash and dancing skills. Okay. Happy early birthday, Doug Peterson. So that is that's 10 days away. So I'm gonna try to let me star this comment. I'll try to remember to give you birthday wishes next Monday, Doug. You're gonna be 21. You're gonna be old enough to drink. Okay, Mark Thomas thinks the Purdue freshman will most likely won't be physically ready to contribute against a grown man in the Big Ten. Okay, well, let's take a look at that. So CJ Cox is 6'3", 200. His body looks okay. Let's see who else we got. Daniel Jacobson, freshman, 7'4", 230, was with USA Basketball over the summer, and we're turning heads. I think he'll be okay. I think he'll be ready. Who else we got? This is a guy that I keep hearing is going to get to play a lot. Jakari Harris is ready. 6'3", 200 pounds, out of Atlanta, Georgia. He's probably going to be the freshman along with Daniel Jacobson that'll get the most time. But I think those two are ready. But when you look at Purdue, guys, think about Will Berg, 7'2", 260, redshirt sophomore. Been banging against Zach Edey the last 2 years, right? Riley Burgess is a 6'11", 240 freshman that won't be required to do much. He won't be asked to do much. And so now you've got Jack Bender won't be asked to do much, but you've got Brian Waddell, a junior, is 6'7". You've got Sam King, 6'9", 230, junior. Miles Coven is going to have a breakout season. He's ready. We talked about Trey Kaufman-Renn. Braden Smith, your preseason Big Ten Player of the Year. Fletcher Lawyer, preseason first team All Big Ten. Caleb First is a senior, 6'10", 235. I think Purdue is going to be fine, guys. They may not have to rely on that five-player class, but they're going to be fine. Chad says he's seen a lot of videos of ex-NBA vets talking about the legendary trash talking skills of Larry Bird. Did I ever play against Bird, and do I have any stories? No, I didn't play against him, but I watched him play a couple times at the SIU arena when he was at Indiana State. And he played the game, And then I can't remember why he was in town the next day, but there was an autograph signing that we went to. And it was at the Carbondale Mall. And he was at a table, very nondescript, low key, and he wasn't a social butterfly by any means. So I go up and I say, "Hi, Larry, how are you?" And he's like, he kind of grunts, and he was not social, and he looked like he was in pain, and I didn't understand at the time, but he was hungover. Larry Bird at the autographs signing. As I got older, I figured it out, but as a kid, I didn't understand. Like, dang, did I say something? It had nothing to do with me. He was hungover and he was hurting. And he must have been getting a little bit of change for signing all those autographs because he was not in a good mood. But he was one of my favorite players. He probably top three, top four players ever for me. Larry Bird was outstanding. In terms of a player that got the most out of their body and skill set, in NBA history, that will go down between Steph Curry and Larry Bird. Pound for pound, in terms of the person that got the most out of their ability, those two dudes, pound for pound, are probably the two best players in NBA history that had zero athleticism coming in, worked on their bodies, got their jump shots to where they could shoot it in their sleep, and were excellent team guys. So I love Larry Bird, and that's my Larry Bird story. Oh yeah, Chad. I think that's gonna continue. Anytime you make an Elite Eight run, and then you have the staff that Illinois has, I think it's a matter of time before you'll see more one and dones considering Illinois just based on their current success. All right, Fly Illini Fly. Let's see your Big Ten rankings. Indiana 1, Illinois 2, Purdue 3, UCLA 4, Oregon 5. Oregon has a dude named Shelston that's going to cook. Yeah, Shelstad had, I think he had 73 in a summer league game out in Seattle this summer. So he put up something ridiculous. It was either, was it Portland Summer League or was it in Seattle? It was out in the Northwest somewhere. And he had 73 points in a summer league game. His kicker really filled up. I like Oregon too. I do. I like their length. I love Dana Altman. I think he's one of the more underrated coaches in the country. What up, Tyson? I don't know what I saw it on, but they've got Michigan State, the faves, to win Big Ten, but they may be prisoner of the moment because Michigan State is on a Spain tour and have played well. Xavier Booker looking real nice. What's the kid? Frankie Fiddler looks pretty good. Cohen Carr, I'm not sure why he cut all his dreads off, but he looks even more aerodynamic and aggressive at the rim. I've seen some clips of Jaden Akins. He looks pretty good. I saw a clip. I think it was Jace Richardson made a nice play. So they crushed the Valencia team, I think, by 50 points yesterday. So they're not really having any. It was yesterday or the day before. They haven't had any issues in terms of the competitiveness, and they're getting a lot of people to play. And yes, Booker looks good. But I've not seen the Spartans be favored by anyone as a preseason favorite in the Big Ten. Okay, Mark likes the Halliburton comp to Kasparis. I think because I love Kasparis' floor vision. Like, he's got great floor vision. He's a great passer. And I think Halliburton is similar to that. That's what made me think of it. So, okay, Mark. Appreciate you. Uh-oh, wait a minute. DeShondre Washington, did you get some intel or something? You must have talked to somebody. Is it true you played against Michael Jordan while he was training to return to the Wizards at Hoops, the gym in Chicago? Yes. In the runs, did he play well? Not Jordan-like, because he wasn't in shape yet. And had you been playing around Jordan much prior? No, not really. But with the gracious thing that Mike MJ did was that everybody that he invited to come in scrimmage, you guys remember he had a restaurant right down, it was like literally half a block down the street on the same side of the street. It was a steakhouse. And so he'd invite guys to come over and eat and gamble because, Mike was a legendary gambler. I'm not a gambler, but I sure did come and eat. And it was a gracious gesture on Mike's part. And he was a guy that struggled to be treated like an everyday dude. That's why he liked those scenarios. Mike liked being on the West Side. He would show up in some of the that you thought were some of the most dangerous neighborhoods in Chicago. MJ would show up. Now he'd have his boy with him. I can't remember the guy's name that was one of his best friends. That was a Chicago police officer. And then he had a couple cats that were known around the city to like, oh, okay, MJ's with them. We ain't fooling. We ain't even thinking about that. So he was surrounded by the right people. But MJ would come to the South Side. He'd go to the West Side. He was a guy that just wanted to be a regular dude. And so he treated us great when we worked out with him. And so those are my stories. I got some other ones I won't share on this platform, but I love MJ, man. He treated us great. Mark Thomas says Lawyer is not going to be preseason Big Ten first team. No way. Well, who will be then? Mark, I'm going to give you, I want all of you all. Who's going to be preseason first team all Big Ten this year? I'll try it. I'm just going to take a stab at it. Okay. Braden Smith, Dawson Garcia, Minnesota, leading returning scorer in the Big Ten. Remember what Minnesota assistant Jason Kemp said. Those two. It's going to be hard not to have Bruce Thornton on that first team. Ooh, it's going to be hard to keep Ace Bailey Jr. off the first team too. That's 4. That's 3 guards and Dawson Garcia. Wow. And maybe Brooks Barnhizer. So Brooks Barnhizer. God, I'm thinking about Ace Bailey from Rutgers or Dylan Harper. I'll say Ace Bailey. I'm throwing Ace Bailey on there. Ace Bailey, Rutgers. Braden Smith, Purdue. Brooks Barnhizer, Northwestern. Ace Baldwin Jr., Penn State. And I was leaving Bruce Thornton off the first team, but who to have? Dang, I left Malik Renew off of that as well. Braden Smith, Ace Bailey, Rutgers. Ace Baldwin Jr., Penn State. Brooks Barnhizer, Northwestern. Yeah, you're right. I can see it. He could be second team. You're right. I had to think about it. Thank you, Mark. Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, Kevin, you're right. Jace looks nice, but they aren't. Are they playing good teams? Not necessarily. But Kevin, the thing is, you just want to get guys to beat up on somebody else. You want to see guys in game situations. They get a chance to do different out of bounds, underneath, side out of bounds. They might even run late game scenarios, even with the game out of reach. But you want to see how guys play with different players. You want to see their feedback to coaching. You want to see them respond to maybe a bad call. You want to see them maybe on the third game. Are they fatigued because we've been on the road for a while? We're in a time zone that's different. There's a lot of things that coaches get from these tours, and it's not necessarily the outcome of the games that's the most important, although those help. You always want to win those games, but you're looking at so many different things when you take a team overseas that it's a compression situation that gives you tremendous feedback, right? And so don't get caught up in the way things look. I just want to see that Jace is a part of the rotation, and it looks like he is. It's hard to believe that Big Ten hasn't won in 24 years. We had great teams in that span. It's amazing. I agree. That 2005 Illinois team, if the referees don't screw James Augustine, that 2005 team was good enough to win a national championship. Some of those Ohio State teams, the Wisconsin teams that got to back-to-back Final Fours, the Michigan teams that got to back-to-back Final Fours. I mean, we've had some teams just didn't get over the top. What's up, Thomas? I'm sure Indiana will be playing their usual D3 teams at home in the preseason play. They rarely go on the road prior to conference play. Got to build up that record. Well, let's take a look and see who Indiana has in their pre-conference slate. Let's see if they've got. Oh, okay. So it looks like Indiana will have SIUE, Eastern Illinois. South Carolina comes to Bloomington. That's going to be a good game. South Carolina's pretty good. So they got South Carolina coming to them. UNC Greensboro's not bad coming to Bloomington. Then they go to battle for Atlantis. That's a good tournament. I don't know the teams that are in there, but that's a good tournament. They're going to get 3 games out of that. Sam Houston, Miami of Ohio, Chattanooga, and Winthrop all come to Bloomington. So they are challenging themselves in that battle for Atlantis. Let's see. For Atlantis. Let's see. Let's see who's in this tournament. Oh, this is cool. They got a battle for Atlantis for the women as well, huh? I didn't know that. Okay. Woo. Okay, Thomas Dag. I think you might want to eat your words here. Arizona, Davidson, Gonzaga, Louisville, Oklahoma, Providence, and West Virginia. That's a really good field. Arizona, Davidson, Gonzaga, Louisville, Oklahoma, Providence, and West Virginia. They're going to get challenged in that. So I applaud Woodson for that. That's a nice get for them. Doug Peterson says 21 is long past. I saw you play in 89. I'll be 67, experienced drinker. Okay. 67 years young. You know what, Curtis? I'm not really a shoe head, not a sneaker head. And I didn't like the Jordans. Because the ones I got the 2s or 3s or something like that. Me and Rex Chapman and Kendall Gill were on the same team at not a 5-star. We were on the same team at 5-star, but we got Jordans at the Nike All-American camp out in Princeton. And they were super nice. I wish I would have kept them because I didn't like the feel of them. And so I'm all about comfort. I'm not really about look. The CB3s, the Charles Barkley 3s were the best basketball shoe that was ever made. The most comfortable and most durable basketball shoe that was ever made were the Charles Barkley 3s by Nike. Top 10 Adidas back in the 80s and the CB3 Barclays. Those two were the best basketball shoes, in my opinion, ever made. Who ball or scoop? Give me a Big Ten team that may shock everyone. Northwestern and Wisconsin. Now, why do I say that? Northwestern is old. And anytime the Badgers are old, they are dangerous. They're deep. They're old. And this Xavier Amos kid, I want to see him play. I think You couple him with John Blackwell. Kamari McGee is back. I think he's going to be healthy. Cameron Winter, I believe, is going to be healthy. Bulldog of a point guard. They've got length. They've got depth. Stephen Crowell is back. Wisconsin, they're not going to be 10th. They may surprise some people. Northwestern's got 4 starters back from the last 2 seasons. Now, Ty Berry, Brooks Barnheiser, and Matthew Nicholson are not playing on their overseas tour that was announced today. So they won't be playing in any games. They're traveling with the team, but they're not going to play. But Northwestern has 4 starters back. And the kid, Leach, I believe is the guy, the point guard from Fairfield that they brought in. He's pretty good. So Northwestern they could shock some people as well. 2nd and 3rd the last 2 seasons in the Big Ten. A lot of that had to do with Boo Buie, but that culture and that fabric of toughness and togetherness is still there. So those are 2 teams that I think could shock some people. Good question. I think Jared Sullinger of Ohio State, I believe he was preseason first team. I'd have to go back and look at that. Good question, though. Doug says, I played in the old Chuck Taylors. Hey, man, Chuck Taylors were valuable even when I was a kid, man. You thought you were doing something. You got a fresh pair of Chucks. Curtis says, not a sneakerhead and not a fan of Jordans. You surprised me. My favorite sneaker was the Nike Air Maestro that Fab Five wore, and Pippen wore a red pair when he won the 94 All-Star MVP. Okay, there we go. All right, well, I think I got to everybody's questions. I appreciate you guys tuning in. Thank you so much to Minnesota assistant Jason Kemp for that fun and informative interview. Hope you guys enjoyed the Flyin Illini stories around PJ Bowman, Petey Weestraw, the devil's son-in-law. And again, thank you to Ryan, my producer, for hooking things up in the background. Hope you guys have a great rest of your week. I've got some interviews that are coming. I've still got more assistant coaches coming, but I've got a former Illini I think you guys are going to be really excited to hear from. That, and I don't know if I'm going to drop the interview by itself or am I going to splice it up. We'll see, but I'll let you know. So stay tuned. Come back to Bardo Media on YouTube to see what we're doing. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe to Bardo Media on YouTube so that you're alerted when we go live or when I drop new content. And every time you like our content, it really helps the growth of the show. So thank you so much, you guys. Really appreciate you. Love you all. Have a great rest of your week. Try to enjoy as much as you can of the remaining summer that we have. And I'll talk to you soon. Love you guys. Until next time, holla, y'all.